Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. Is doing the most important things alone a good idea? How comfy are you with your choices when it comes to life's biggest decisions? What is real peace of mind with financial confidence, and how can you get it? Chris Fleming and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. On the show, they bring together the best and brightest minds to share with you how to have a more confident financial picture. They empower listeners with simple, common sense and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts from LPF Advisors.
Hey, I want to welcome everybody to the Confident Retirement Podcast brought to you by LPF Advisors. I am your host here as always, Chris Fleming. And today I have the honor of Mel Sams appearing on the show. His tax planning practice, based in Clearwater, Florida, is dedicated to helping small businesses and individuals with their accounting and tax planning needs. Mel is a member of the American and Florida Institutes of CPAs. In his past life, he attained the Eagle Scout rank, which is no small feat. Mel, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And I only got through Cub Scouts, but what I do remember is you always need to be prepared.
That's right. If you learn nothing else, you learn that, you're good.
That's right. That is a life lesson. And I have prepared for our session here today. So let's jump in. I'm sure you have a pretty interesting history. So maybe take me through what led you to opening up your own practice.
Absolutely. So when I got out of college in 2006, I went to work for a large local firm in the Clearwater, Tampa Bay area. Mm-hmm. And, they were all very smart people and I liked working with them, but they were somewhat stuck in some of the kind of old ways of doing things. And I learned a lot from them, but I also, throughout the years made notes about, hey, if I was in charge, here's how I might have done it differently. And I reached a point where I felt like I had kind of maxed out my opportunity there and made the jump. And that was about 8 years ago. So,
no looking back. So
correct.
If you could go back in time, maybe 8 or 9 years and give the younger you some advice, something you know now that you wish you knew then, what do you think that would be?
Well, I think what it would be, specific to accounting, certainly it's no secret that we're losing a lot of people from the profession. There have been some recent, Wall Street Journal and other articles talking about that. And we're not even getting people interested or even trying it as they're coming up through school and because of the bad reputation that we have. So for long hours and then not great pay and all the other tax season and all the other things. So I would just tell them, hey, there are so many more dimensions to this than just grinding it out at a desk. I mean, maybe that's a small piece of it, but things are changing. I mean, we've got some good thought leaders that are making changes.
Yeah. So, you can also expand to a certain degree, kind of your offerings and what your value proposition is. And
correct.
That stuff, especially with business owners, especially who might need that year-round stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something we saw coming out of the pandemic. We got about a half a dozen new service offerings just from what happened in those years and the needs that suddenly popped up. So that's absolutely true.
So is there something that you're especially liking about running a business or owning a business right now?
Oh, absolutely. What I love about it most is that you never know. Any given day you come in the office, you never know if you're going to get that phone call or you're going to get that email. And by that, I mean some opportunity, some new experience, some, like you said, potential to have a new service offering. I mean, those things, they don't happen every day, but they happen. And you never know when it's going to be. That's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it's a puzzle piece. So is there something that either happened in your life or maybe in your profession that helped you decide on the area of focus for your practice?
So I did come from a family of, we had some farmers and some entrepreneurs and, I grew up in Kentucky and in rural Kentucky. So I saw both sides of the coin. I saw the hard work of working a farm, but then I also saw the entrepreneurial side of essentially being the middleman between the farmers and the companies that use their product. And we had family members that did both. And I got to see a very stark contrast between the two. And to be very honest, I've done both, and I don't want to do the hard backbreaking work. I think there are better ways, and I think there are efficiencies, especially with today's technology.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm from a farming background too, in the Midwest in Nebraska. It's interesting seeing how technology is now affecting what they do and making things more efficient. I was in one of those $1 million combines where everything's GPS and all that stuff. That's pretty sweet.
They're unreal. They are unreal. The GPS is running a lot of the, it's
even the
running
planting. All that stuff.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
So do you think there's some misconceptions that people have about what you do or what you can accomplish for them when they first start working with you?
Absolutely. So, I used to do a lot of outreach, and I'd like to get back into doing more of it. But I used to do a lot of outreach where I'd go to high schools, I'd go to, colleges. I'd talk to kids that were either considering something in business or kind of going that way. And the big question, of course, that I always got was, you got to be good at math to be an accountant. Well, that's not true. That's a misconception. We have some pretty advanced software tools that do a lot of the math for you.
Yeah.
And that's good, because really our time should be spent doing the, what I would call the higher level work. Mm-hmm. And over the years, seeing the needs of clients change. So we've changed right along with them. And I'm doing things today that 16, 15 years ago when I started, I would have never dreamt I'd be doing, as far as things that just needs that clients have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the only thing that's constant is change. That's for sure.
That is correct.
So I know our types of businesses are similar in a lot of ways. I'm often helping people discover or showing them or shining a light on what their blind spots are from a financial planning standpoint. So what do you think may be the most overlooked areas or blind spots that you see when it comes to the clients that you serve? Something they're not aware of, or, that they need to be, but they weren't even thinking about.
Well, I think it's a given. As you said, the one thing that's constant is change. We have changes every year to our tax code. There may not be some major sweeping legislation like we had in 2018 or like we had back in 2005, but we have nuanced changes every year, no matter what. And I think there are many blind spots in there. Some are big, some are little. For example, one of the big things we're dealing with right now, and it's consuming a lot of our time, which is great, is we're helping businesses determine if they qualify for the employee retention tax credit. That's one of the hot buttons right now. You're getting it from the radio, TV, email. It's all over the place, cold calls, and companies saying, hey, come get this free money. It's a little more complicated than that.
Always.
It always is. But, this is one where 1 out of every 3 people that call us say, hey, my accountant told me I didn't qualify, or my accountant told me, don't waste your time, or I didn't know my accountant didn't know about it. They basically said, call one of those TV internet companies and let them do it. So, we're seeing multi-million-dollar checks coming back to some people. So I would consider that a huge blind spot, where that's money that you're justly entitled to, and you just have to have the right advice to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that part of your focus of your practice is small businesses. So I'm curious, what are some of the unique challenges maybe that they face when it comes to taxation and the planning that you have to do proactively for them, where maybe an individual doesn't have to worry about?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. So a lot of small business owners are in this very vulnerable spot. And I consider it vulnerable because let's just say, well, let me back up a little bit. When you look at the fact, and the last time I checked, it was something like 70% of the employees in America worked for small businesses, like less than 500 or 1,000 employee businesses. Mm-hmm. So, the misconception may be, everybody works for Amazon and Walmart and Microsoft and these humongous corporations. That's not the case. Mm-hmm. So small business is definitely the heartbeat and the fuel of America that keeps it going. But when you're a small business owner and you've got 2, 3, 4 employees, or maybe a little bit more, you're faced with, you have to wear so many hats. You're wearing your legal hat, your HR hat, you have to understand the accounting and the numbers. You have to get out in the field. You have to do, you have so many responsibilities coming at you. And at the end of the day, just in my opinion, I think the tax code definitely hits pretty hard, or can hit pretty hard, on those small business owners. They tend to be paying a higher effective rate than a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So, for us, the key is just making sure that we get every deduction we can, make sure we take every advantage we can. Very rarely is there like a grand slam home run that they just missed. But oftentimes we can hit 4 singles and still get a run. And that's how we approach the small business owners. Okay.
I know there's a lot of proactivity that goes into it. You can't just gather all the documents at the end of the year and then hope to make a huge impact, because at that point it's probably too late. So I'm curious, kind of switching gears, maybe are there any experiences you've had working with clients, it could be individuals or maybe businesses, that kind of made you really aware of the positive or negative impact of doing something proactively, planning proactively?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can think of one very extreme example that comes to mind right away. But, first, I would just say to that the way we combat that issue is that when my clients sign on with us, they're committing and agreeing that they're going to meet with me at least 4 times a year. Now that doesn't have to be coming to my office in Clearwater. Yeah. That could be a Zoom or a phone call, or I go to them, or whatever works. And I hear it all the time. People say, oh, we don't need to meet this quarter because nothing's really going on. Well, even if we have 15 minutes together, I lay you money that at least one good thing, suggestion, or opportunity will come out of that conversation, just putting our heads together. So I can think of a particular client who had run into some troubles in his business. It was in the medical industry, and he found himself in a very deep hole with the IRS and in the middle of litigation with his business partner. And his attorney brought me in long after a lot of these things had happened. And when I started looking at his business, there was a particular deduction at the time that I knew he would qualify for, but on the surface, it would not seem that this type of business would meet the criteria. So I talked to the attorney. I said, hey, look, we need to pursue this. We need to do some, amended returns, get everybody on board. We did. So the guy, he owed about $1 million to the IRS. And when the dust settled, he ended up with about $200,000 in his pocket, and his debt wiped out with the IRS and money to settle with his partner. So that's a case where I look at that and say, yes, I got involved very late in the game, was able to pull something off real quick, but I could give you 1,000 examples of where, when we're ahead of the curve, we're not finding a grand slam like that, but we're hitting those 4 singles every time, and there's no surprises.
Right. Yeah. Planning for the possibilities, the eventualities, talking through those things, and then what you're
absolutely
going to do. Yeah. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit, Mel. I'm curious, outside of your practice, is there something that you're really passionate about personally?
Absolutely. So I have 3 children of varying ages. I love getting to spend time with them. My oldest daughter is 19. She's in the Navy, so she's off there doing some pretty cool stuff. My 2 little ones are 7 and 3. So they, and to the reality of it is my family has sacrificed a lot for me in this business, in this profession. I mean, there were the tax seasons all those years, and a lot of sacrifice. So I focus on them first and foremost, and just get my downtime with them. But beyond that, I'm an avid hunter. I enjoy taking at least maybe one hunting trip every year and sitting out in nature, in the quiet, the calm, and just kind of being with my thoughts. So that's my.
There aren't a lot of those. There aren't a lot of those opportunities anymore in our world. No. You have to be really. What do you call it? You have to be proactive in planning that stuff. Intentional. Yes. You got to be intentional in that.
There you go.
If you're going to make that happen. Yeah, Indeed. That's cool. So let's switch gears a little bit back to the business. I'm curious what you consider to be maybe your biggest opportunity going forward, something you're really excited about for your practice.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm most excited about right now, and this dovetails right back into what I mentioned about the exodus from public accounting and from accounting in general. So just to set the stage, in 2022, we believe that we lost around 17% of our overall accounting workforce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge. And a lot of it was people who just threw up their hands and said, hey, this isn't for me. It's too tough. It's this or that. And then some was retirement. We have a very, more advanced median age in our profession. But one of the things that was actually introduced to me by a client of mine was they were responsible for doing a lot of accounting and different things as part of their business and the services they offered. And they were using a firm over in India to do a lot of that for them. And this is going back 6 or 7 years. I was working a lot with my client here and got introduced to this company through them and started doing some things with them directly myself. And that sort of materialized into doing a lot of things with them. And by things, I mean, they would take on data manipulation projects or data entry projects, or certainly if a client had a need to do a software conversion or something of that sort. And it all ties into accounting. So that worked well, but there were still some issues I saw with it. It wasn't perfect. So about 2 years ago, one of the managers we worked with through this company, he reached out to me. He was leaving. He was going to work for a competitor and wanted to see if maybe I would consider coming to talk to them. And I said to him, well, hey, why do that? Let's just open up our own office and just cut out the middleman, so to speak. And we can do these things. You can support me here and just kind of see where it goes. Well, that company has grown significantly, and we've now got about 25 employees, and we're hiring more, and we're starting to offer our services to other CPA firms and accountants around the country. So the exciting thing about that to me is, one of the biggest issues I hear from other accountants and CPAs right now is, hey, I'm getting so much demand for my services, but I don't have the capacity. I don't have the supply because we can't find staff, or we're burnt out, or, all those things. So now we're able to offer them that extra capacity to where they can take on those other things and serve their clients better. So I'm really excited to see how that materializes. I was just over there a couple of weeks ago in India, at our office, and just a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So that's my number one thing for 2023.
Yeah. All right. I like that. We're varying our income streams. That's good. Now, on the flip side of that, what do you see as your biggest challenge or obstacle for your business right now? Something you want to overcome?
Yeah. So I think one big obstacle that's probably not just exclusive to us, but that I think a lot of businesses face is just keeping the most efficient processes and policies in place, and keeping everyone at the highest and best use of their time. That's always a moving target. And another challenge is cybersecurity. That's one of the things that does keep me awake at night. And we take lots of steps and spend a lot of money to protect that data that we've been entrusted with. But that's, to me, one of the biggest vulnerabilities that CPA firms face, aside from the labor that we were just talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I know we not struggle, but that's a big topic in our industry too, with the cybersecurity, having access to all of that sensitive information. You got to take it seriously. It doesn't just happen to the big people. Okay. So Mel, if people want to learn more about you and your practice or contact you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. So they can give us a call at area code 727-386-4127. We, again, are located right here outside of downtown Clearwater and convenient to Tampa and to Sarasota, Bradenton area. And all points in between in the Tampa Bay area. And I would say too, we also work with quite a few folks that aren't even in Florida. I think about 30% of our client base, so they're not even here. They're in other states, they're in other places. So we do not have that geographic limitation that, say, like attorneys may have, where they may not be barred or registered in a particular state. We can work across the U.S. So, but just give us a call and speak. And then,
do you guys have a website also?
We do. Yes. Thank you. Our website is Sams, SAMS, CPA.com.
Okay. All right. Easy to remember. All right. Everybody go there to check those out or to give them a call. Listen, Mel, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me today. It's been a true pleasure to interview you. And I want to thank everyone for listening and watching, tuning in to the Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors, where we hope to raise the retirement and financial confidence of everyday people to another level, one show at a time. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be well, take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you, Chris.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Chris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.